I'm not saying that. I'm saying that sounds like something he would write.
No, you are saying it. And it's that little bit extra that we always talk about. That nobody asked for. It's totally different direction.
I love you. Never change.
Thank you.
Change a little bit.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt went 51 episodes over 4 seasons with a special on Netflix. They were talking about episode 1, which was called Kimmy Goes Outside, originally airing March 6, 2015. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, most of the boys, Berg, Nick, and Joe. What's going on, guys?
Hey-o.
Yo.
Alcohol tastes good.
So, welcome, everyone. This is week 3 of our Ladies of the Office month, where each week we're doing a different show that was starring one of the ladies from the sitcom The Office. Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, I feel like, this and next week's show is probably the biggest of the 4 that we're covering. This was a show I watched. I think I missed like the last few episodes, but I watched a good amount of it.
When you said it was only 51 episodes, I was a little surprised, actually, because it felt like one of those like network shows where it's like 20-something episodes. Like, I feel like the seasons were really long, but that's not the case, apparently. And I still didn't finish it. Like, I think I'm like a whole season behind. So
Same here, yeah. We watched it, we started it, we watched, I think, 2 seasons, maybe 2.5, and something just happened and we never finished it.
I don't know when I fell off. It was towards the end, though. Like maybe the last season. Maybe I gotta go back and watch it now. I don't like watching most of a show and then not completing it.
Like any show, the fish out of water story loses its like appeal once they've been there for a long time because suddenly they're not a fish out of water.
Yeah,
that's just their life.
But like I remember Parks and Rec for some reason. It took me like 4 or 5 years to watch the last season for whatever reason. I used to watch it weekly.
You see the last special for this? I know you said you didn't stay with the show.
I never saw the movie or whatever. Yeah, like
it's one of those like choose your own adventure ones. So like you have to like click and then like the story will go a different way. It was a lot of fun.
I've been meaning to watch it. I will. I want to.
For your point a minute ago, I was thinking about this earlier too, the fish out of water thing. I think that's why it works so well in a movie because you're in and out in an hour and a half, right? Like during this, like I think the biggest influence on this is probably Blast from the Past. And I think there's probably a little bit of Little Nicky in here too, right? The whole like in New York for the first time, getting an apartment, weird roommate thing is very much a Little Nicky thing.
Or Elf.
Elf is what I had written on. I was gonna save it for later, but
I didn't even think of Elf actually.
I think it pulls from Elf. That's the one I had written down.
I'm gonna go Little Nicky over Elf. That's me a personal thing, but I know that's a very rare assessment.
I like Little Nicky more than Elf.
Me too. Okay, there's 2 of us then. All right.
I also want to get into real quick. S1E1pod.com is where you can find all our links to all our socials, where to listen to us, stuff like that. So please give that a look. Hit us up. We always say it. If you want to get in touch with us on Instagram or X or anything like that, it's like really fun to talk to you guys. And, you guys give us ideas for shows that we'll cover in the future, stuff like that. And we have a merch link. So if you guys want to buy a t-shirt or anything like that, we'd appreciate it. Additionally, real quick, IMDb 7.5 for this show, which I actually thought was a little low. And then when I went to Rotten Tomatoes, 96% critic, 84% fan, which sounded a little more realistic.
Yeah, it's a little more accurate.
Just by the fandom I know and the people who watched it originally.
This is pretty high profile at the time too, right? This is like a big Netflix show, like a big early sitcom streamer.
This was when Netflix didn't have a ton of original shows. They had some, but this was one of the big ones.
It was also less than a year after The Office ends, and Ellie Kemper was a pretty big part of the end of The Office, so I think there was a lot of things that kind of helped push this.
Well, Tina Fey, too. Tina Fey is one of the creators of the show. And should be mentioned, though, like, we know it as a Netflix show, but the show was created and was supposed to air on NBC.
Which makes all the sense in the world, yeah, because this feels so much like 30 Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously just Tina Fey's humor, being one of the creators and, writers on the show.
Jane Krakow's basically the same character.
Yeah. So, and yeah, you have Ellie Kemper involved, all this stuff. It's kind of weird that they like got it so far and developed the show and then went, you know what? Never mind. I don't know why they were like kind of, maybe they were just burnt out on these comedies or something, but that was their wheelhouse for years.
This is also a double Office Ladies episode because the woman who marries Roy in the weird morning wedding episode of The Office is one
That's
of
right.
Is one of the
yes,
ladies in the bunker.
Good call. So yeah,
bonus.
Yeah, I'll have to sneak someone else in the graphic. But yeah, no, I thought it was that was one of those things that flagged me as I was kind of just doing my early homework. Was like, why did NBC just like pass on this? Like it was like anything Tina Fey touches like a layup. So it just seemed weird to take it that far. And they were the ones who approached Tina Fey and the other creator. I have his name written down somewhere and I can't find it at the moment. It was Robert Carlock.
He's Tina Fey's like collaborator on a bunch of stuff.
And they were approached by NBC specifically to make a show for Ellie Kemper. So it's
I can tell you my personal opinion on why this changed is because I think NBC at that time thought that like the traditional sitcom thing, like they had to move into something different. This is when they started doing a bunch of weird stuff where there was like that Billy Crystal show and the Paul Reiser show that were much more like Curb, where it was like, it's a real version of their lives, where they were trying to like, this is what's hip now and cool. Like they like stepped away from it for a second. I think they maybe got cold feet on something that was so traditionally a sitcom, which is crazy to think of because all of those like Thursday night shows were so big and it just happened. It wasn't like they were like 10 years later.
It's funny you say that too, Jay, because in the middle of this episode too, I was thinking to myself, like, this seems like it was written for Ellie Kemper. Like I would have a really hard time seeing anybody else in this role, I think. I mean, not to say that nobody else could do it, but it does seem tailored to her. Yeah,
so, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they're kicking themselves afterwards because the show is, it was successful. It had a 4-season run.
Also, you have to be kicking yourself, too, if you're a major network. If you had something that lasted well that you could then make, like, an interesting COVID project out of, because they were just dying for content. Like, remember, like, mid-2020, networks were just like, I don't know what to do, right? Like, this came out, like the movie thing, the Choose Your Adventure thing, a lot of that was probably shot first person without people around. I remember like SNL trying to do SNL from home, like A+ for effort, but like
I mean, weird, everyone was kind of stuck in the moment. You know, it's funny too, like I know the restrictions were weird at the time, but you could have almost had a 5th season where they went back to the bunker because COVID happened.
Right.
But anyways, we got a lot to cover, so we might as well get right into it. The show starts and we hear the song Let It Snow being played in the title screen that just kind of reads Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, created by Tina Fey and Robert Carlock. And that, is kind of a placeholder. The actual intro to the remainder of the series actually comes up later organically.
Got a lot to say about that.
I bet you do. So
the scene stopped. I just go, we should have saved this for Christmas. I remember they just counted wrong.
Yeah.
It's not actually a Christmas episode.
Yeah, but it does appear so at first. So we see Ellie Kemper's character, Kimmy, and she's placing a star on the top of like their shitty Christmas tree. And we see that they're inside of a bunker and she's in there with 3 other women and they all have that kind of like, is it Amish type of attire?
I think that's a good way to put it.
Amish-ish.
I would say like puritanical.
Yeah. I mean, somewhere like, not of this current time for sure.
There's definitely some people who this flagged. We go to a lot of junk shops and like weird places up here. And like we were in there one day and there was like definitely a sister wives scenario happening. And everybody looked just like all these people. And then the guy who was with them, who was clearly the like sex leader, looked like one of us. We were just like, what the fuck is happening? This is so weird.
So they're all talking to one another and we find out they're like having their secret Santa. Right before they're going to do the presents, they're all like hand in hand around the tree and they're singing. Well, instead of like, oh, Christmas tree, it's apocalypse, apocalypse. We caused it with our dumbness.
Yeah. Good Christmas song.
As soon as they are finished with that line, we see, we hear banging on the door and a SWAT team just busts right into this bunker. And like, we hear like, we found them. And like, before you know it, this being like a giant door opened in the middle of a field. Like the idea that like they've been looking for years, but there's this giant metal door in the middle of an open field.
I love in this scene they do the like Saving Private Ryan war thing where like a bomb goes off and all sound sort of goes away. It's like they come out and the sun is blinding and there's no like organic sound happening.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is the Reverend's yard or something. Like, how do you not notice this door? Like, in
there's really nothing else around other than the trailer house that they interview the guy later. So he could just he could live off the map.
Yeah, but Indiana's a pretty populous state too. It's not like Indiana's like the middle of nowhere. But how badly do you want a bunker like this in just your backyard? Like, that's such a fun...
That would be sick,
Like, I think of watching Gleaming the Cube a lot as a kid. And, like, his best friend, like, they have, like, a bunker in there. That's where his bedroom is. He just, like, hangs out in there and skateboards. As a kid, I was like, that is the coolest thing you could ever have.
Well, start digging, Joe.
I have a yard.
Like, anytime you see, like, a bomb shelter type of thing, like, there are a lot of people who, like, prep for apocalyptic situations and bombs and... You know, anytime you see those, like, and this is where I'll hide out, and you're like, this is so tiny and depressing that I don't know if I'd want to just survive in here by myself with freeze-dried food for 3 years.
I used to watch that Doomsday prepper show where they all have those things. One guy was like in an old, like, abandoned nuclear facility. It's like, wow, this one's a factory.
If you had like room to move around, but like anything tiny, it's like, I don't know, I'm out.
There was one of those where a guy buried, like, he bought a bunch of decommissioned school buses and buried, like, 50 of them and then just cut out, like, every other wall. So it was humongous. It was really interesting.
There's, like, you have to have, like, power and ventilation. And, though, like, a lot of people think it's just, like, underground. And, like, gases can settle. And, like, you wouldn't even know it. You'd just die because of some weird gas that, even, like, the carbon dioxide that you're expelling. Like,
one fart, you're doomed.
Like, yeah, like you need like a pipe usually, like those doomsday bunkers like usually have like a fake tree nearby that's not a real tree and it's just a ventilation pipe. So there's like a lot more than, you know, just digging a hole and throwing some cement in there to it.
The airflow is huge. Yeah. I mean, if you look at even some, like there's a lot of like World War II bunkers in Germany, they're still like somewhat together, and they're like, and this is where like a street is now and a little vent sticks out, and you're like, somebody could have just walked by and like thrown anything down there or blocked it off and you couldn't get out. Like it's not a foolproof plan.
And without question, I think the best underground place to live is the abandoned subway stop from Ninja Turtles 2.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
That has power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, their first apartment too in part 1 has power as well. That's just a sewer building? Like, wait, what do they live in the first one? Because they're in the sewer, but it's like a very wide open space, but it's not a train station.
Yeah, the train station actually makes more sense, except for like, how do they not know that this is a train station that's been abandoned?
It's like a sewer junction. It's like where a bunch of them come into one spot. I don't know. Yeah, it's strange.
Or in Blank Man, where they have the blank station.
Blank Man, he uses the train tracks as a helpful hint, though, whereas the Ninja Turtles just skateboarding through the tunnels.
To get back into this, as mentioned before, as they're coming out, you can see it's a beautiful day. So they're like, I think we counted wrong. It's not Christmas. Kimmy's like, but it's here. It's all still here. Because they were under the impression the apocalypse had happened. And you're cutting to like multiple news reporters all covering this story, and they're all kind of reading from the same script. And we're finding out that it's in Indiana and that they were all part of some underground apocalypse cult that was run by the self-proclaimed Messiah, Reverend Richard Wayne Gary Wayne, best known to Yelp users in the area as a Durnsville's worst wedding DJ.
It's going to be tough to be the worst wedding DJ. Is that a DJ request situation where you don't take requests? Where you're like, it's my wedding, I want you to play the chicken dance. You're like, fuck you, I'm not playing it. You're like, but it's the wedding.
The chicken dance? That's...
Electric Slide. I don't play any of that shit at my wedding, but like that's what weddings, when you go to like a regular wedding, there's like 50 songs you're gonna hear. Chicken dance always happens.
I don't know if I've ever done the chicken dance at a wedding.
Cotton Eye Joe was a big one as well.
I mean, you're listing like middle school dance songs. I've never heard these songs at a wedding.
Yeah, like typical
I've
wedding
been to
songs.
Several weddings.
Casey and JoJo, the Aerosmith song from Armageddon.
I gotta agree with Joe. They play the chicken dance at a lot of weddings.
Thank you.
It's even
I've definitely heard Cotton Eye Joe. I've never heard the chicken dance.
I don't know about the chicken dance.
It's even in an episode of New Girl, Joe's favorite show, when they go to a wedding and they all slow dance to the
fucking course
chicken dance.
Well, now it makes sense. We all know how quirky Joe can be.
Fucking hate you guys.
during all these news reports, we now cut over to one where a man outside is being interviewed. His telling the story turns into an auto-tune song. And this was done by like the Gregory brothers, who at the time were known for like the real life news clips that they were doing auto-tunes.
Yeah, auto-tune the news.
Yeah, they was like super viral. They did all the, auto-tune the news and songify these clips, and they're still doing a ton of stuff, but they were definitely at their peak right around now. So it was very timely.
Yuck.
I disagree. I think it was fun, it's upbeat, and it was very timely for what was going on at the time.
It overstayed its welcome. It was fun at first.
I agree with you. It overstays its welcome, but also it immediately dates it, right? Because that was a big thing at the time. And I'm not talking about something being 20 years ago. Like, this was only 10 years ago, and immediately you're just like, oh yeah, the clip of that guy doing that thing from the news. Like, I just don't like it.
But it wasn't just that one. Like, I sent you guys the Antoine Dodson one earlier, but it wasn't just that clip. One, though. But they had a lot of them, and they were very popular, and to this day are still very popular and do a lot of clips.
Good for them. I hope they're making money. Fucking yuck.
Are you sure they're still popular?
Yeah, they have like over 3 million subscribers on YouTube.
That's like 3 million more than us.
Just about. And if you want, give us a follow on YouTube. We update our shows on there sometimes.
Yeah, auto-tune me and make me some money. How about that?
We'll auto-tune Joe, yeah.
9/11.
I'm not quirky.
Joe, I know you would have preferred like a nice little like ukulele song or something, but...
Oh, fuck you. You know what I will say, though? The part that just goes, Unbreakable, is like a little earworm. That's all it should have been.
Right?
It really
it's so
is.
catchy.
Especially when you watch the show and you see the intro a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Nick, I was so disappointed that we didn't get the intro in this episode. I know you got the actual like clip.
You had like the extended version of the song, but yeah, the cut down version, the classic from us, not to get ahead. But the version that's like cut down to be the permanent intro from like episode 2 forward, I think is very catchy.
You know it's good? I never skipped it when it said, you want to skip the intro?
That says something, yeah. If you're like, no, I like this song, that's something, yeah. The original one, the shorter one, I think or just the hook, or just like the little catchy part, I think is I'll be saying it tomorrow, I'm sure. You know what I mean? But like, you don't need 2 minutes of this.
Anytime there's a show that pops up skip intro that only has like the intro that's like 2 seconds long with like a title screen, if I press that button for the TV to recognize that I pressed it and process to move forward will take longer than if I just play it out. Like, don't fucking put it up there for those types of shows.
I think it needs to be on the screen for like 5 more seconds.
Oh, because it sucks when you go to hit it and you miss it. You feel like you just got so defeated.
Yeah.
And then you just pause it and extend it.
Start over. I'm doing this again. I'm doing it right.
From the intro, we cut to the 4 girls, and now they're on the Today Show being interviewed by Matt Lauer.
Remember Matt Lauer?
One of history's greatest villains, Matt Lauer. Holy shit. That was tough. And like, you're never going to know, right? You make this and you just get like a big TV anchor. You have no idea that Harvey Weinstein used him as a defense to get himself out of trouble. That's how evil Matt Lauer is. And Harvey Weinstein was like, if you talk about this guy, talk about me, I'm going to expose this guy. And they were like, shit, we can't do that. Fucking monster. He had a desk fucking button that would lock his doors so you couldn't escape. Much like a cult leader putting people into a bunker.
I'm not agreeing with any of that, but isn't it cool when you hear that things like, you think these things only exist in shows, like
a James Bond thing?
Like, did he steal that from a cartoon? Like, can that be done for real?
Like it from Mr. Burns,
right? Or like it's didn't Ron Swanson he had a button that would close his door, but not lock it?
Yeah. It would close them. It would keep people out, though, not lock them in.
Also, how do you search for that, right? Like, you go on like Angie's List and you're like, I'm looking for somebody who will come in and make my room an impenetrable sex dungeon. Like, oh, I can do that. Sure, $25.
Yeah, just hire someone on TaskRabbit.
I don't think people on TaskRabbit are going to be skilled enough to make your sex office.
Anyways, they're being interviewed and we see the 4 girls. They're all being interviewed and, it's all about the story about how for years they were told by the Reverend that, the world ended. And Kimmy's like, yep, Reverend Richard told us that there was a nuclear apocalypse and that Earth was scorched and that there were lakes of fire and stuff. And we're kind of we're meeting all 4 of them one by one. So then we meet Cindy, who's probably Kimmy's closest friend, she has braces on. So she just for years, like that needs to be addressed immediately. If you have braces that were unadjusted for that many years.
That's actually pretty normal from people that were supposed to like my niece was supposed to get hers off at the right before COVID, and then you couldn't get a dentist appointment until after. So she had them on for an extra 2 years. It doesn't really do any damage or anything.
It doesn't they don't have to be adjusted or anything though, when that happens?
No, because you tighten them to straighten the teeth further. Just leaving them on as normal, they're gonna stay in that spot.
It's just fine then. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I was like, damn, how long were they in there? You'd almost think they'd be ripped up and fucking cut in her mouth by now.
They should be gross at the very least.
Yeah. Gretchen was the one that stayed willingly. She's not even, they're all dressed in normal clothes now, and she's still wearing the original mole girls clothes.
These are the little things that I love that are very Tina Fey. My favorite joke of the entire episode is a very Tina Fey one that happens later. But yeah, the fact that she is still just dressed like that, and she was willing, and she was selling her hair on Craigslist is just, that's the best character.
And then Donna Maria, who was just working for a maid company, she just thought she was doing a job to clean the place up, and somehow ended up in there. And then she's speaking in Spanish. It's oh, interesting, 15 years living with these women and you still never learned how to speak Spanish. Speak English. And then she replies in Spanish, and the girls are just kind of nodding and smiling, but you see the quote under her from from the news reporter, from the show rather. It says these bitches didn't learn any Spanish. So
I think that's fair. That's a two-way street.
It's actually a one-way street because she understood him. So that means she did understand English.
I think she does understand, because you've spent 15 years in a bunker with women who are exclusively speaking one language. So it was just more a refusal to talk to them. And I guess, Joe, I can see both sides of maybe they should try a little bit, but there's no way to win this conversation because I'm a white guy. So but there's three of them all speaking. If you're the only one, are the three supposed to all learn Spanish to talk to her?
I'll say that I'll use Ghosts, both UK and US, as an example here, right? They're there forever, right? So every day they tell stories or they have different stuff they do. I would think that learning a new language would be a good way to pass the time, right? It'd be something to keep you occupied.
The caveman learned English. They didn't all learn how to communicate the way the caveman communicated beforehand.
Sure, but if you were in a situation, if I was in a room with three people who only spoke Spanish for 15 years, I would work on learning Spanish. You know what I mean?
Maybe I would say probably out of boredom. You know what I mean? Just
that's what I mean. Yeah, keep yourself occupied. Do something.
They were busy turning their giant crank.
That's true. Now they're being told well, now you have this amazing second opportunity at life now, and thanks to all the thousands of dollars that were contributed to the Mole Women Fund, now they're asking, well, what's next? What are you guys all going to do? And there's not a lot of plans. The girl Cindy's just going to get her braces off, and the maid's just going to go back to working at Happy Maids. Gretchen's I go with you now, right? I'm married to you. She's just thinks that she's been transferred to a new leader.
And Matt Lauer was I'll see you after the show.
Yeah.
And then it was what about you, Kimmy? And she's just kind of lost in thought. She hadn't really thought of what she's going to do now when they get back out.
I like when he calls them the Mole Woman, and she's we don't like to be called that. He just continues calling them that.
He cuts her off and says her Mole Woman.
When they're all leaving after the show, they're exiting the studio, and the guy's thank you, victims, good luck, and giving them all their gift bags. Just
that dude's delivery is fucking priceless. Not to get dark or anything here, but these were cognizant people, right? So if you do the math, Kimmy Schmidt would have been 14, I think, when she was kidnapped.
Something like that, because she's right around 30 here.
Yeah, and it's the year 2000, right? So do you think she was oh, New York, can we go to the World Trade Center? It was so something weird happened while you were gone.
I mean, yeah, they wouldn't know about it.
They wouldn't know about it. Yeah, they'd be why, where are the two big buildings?
I guess I'll give you the pass. It's not the first thing I would think about. I think the first one would be I want to see the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty. I
want to go do the chicken dance at the World Trade Center.
And afterwards, go see a show at CBGB's. Well, sorry, girls. Everything interesting in New York has been fucking destroyed.
Where are all the hookers?
You're in Times Square, and they're I want to buy some heroin, and I want to find a sex worker. Well, not anymore. Oh, it's okay. Nice man named Giuliani, who's never done anything bad, changed everything.
They're all in the van now, and they're all heading back to wherever they were going. And Kimmy asked, for them to pull over. And she hops out, and they're what are you doing? She's I'm not going to go back. She wants to stay there. And they're you're crazy. Her friend's telling her, you have a middle school education. You can't make it here.
But I just wanted to point out here that it actually bugged me that she was the only one who like tried to, say something. The other two girls who she has spent the last 15 years with exclusively were just like, fine, fuck you, see you later. It actually bugged me.
Well, I think there's one of those things where they're more like, I think the whole purpose of this show was that, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, she's the one who was like, throughout this whole time, like a little bit more mentally tough. Because, they all got locked into like a sex cult, basically. And these girls are more like mentally broken down and susceptible to that stuff. And she's a little bit more independent.
Yeah, no, I understand the need for the plot device too. But I just feel like there was another way they could have done that without, kind of demonizing the other two so much. Because they if I remember, it's been a long time since I watched this show. You do see these girls again.
Yeah, they pop up a lot.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're gonna keep coming back. I thought it was a strange thing. I don't know. It just
and they all just want to go home though. Like she wants to try something new.
True.
So like they in theory all have families to return to and things like that.
Yeah, they literally just slammed the van door in her face and just like peeled off. I thought it was
strange. One gives her whole like funds, like all the money, gave her thousands of dollars. Like here, like take my cut of the money. So like, and they wish her well, and she gets her Secret Santa gift from Cindy, and but they ultimately they let her leave. You just kind of get that montage from there of her now alone in New York, and this is when I got the
elf part,
elf thing to me, because I think the difference between like a little Nicky and some of the other things you guys mentioned is the whole thing with Elf is he has that wonderment of a child, right? Yeah. He's looking at life through a child's eyes, and she's doing the same because last time she was exposed to the world, she was a child. Yeah. So even though she physically grew up, she didn't get to grow up like emotionally yet. So she's looking at all these things. She walks into a store and the first thing she does is buy light up sneakers because she's always wanted them, and she's laughing because she hasn't seen the sinks that were automatic in the paper in the hand dryer. Like that to me is all super Buddy the Elf, like seeing like the world and being excited by it.
Candy for dinner.
Yeah, candy for dinner, especially.
The laugh she does at the sink and hand blower, like, genuinely made me laugh. It was so sweet and genuine.
She really is so endearing. Like, they do a really good job of, like, portraying her, like, real enjoyment of life.
And I think one of the things, I guess, Tina Fey had said was, like, when creating a show around this girl, like, you see, like, Ellie Kemper has this, like, kind of like innocence to her overall look and demeanor. And I think too, like we're all also very exposed to like fresh off of her on The Office, where Erin's character was very childlike. You know what I mean?
Innocent
like she
and
was
childlike.
Yeah. So she had that same kind of vibe. So I can see why, that natural like progression to put her in a role like this.
These two characters are not a far leap from each other, yeah.
No, they're not. She's not playing the same character by any stretch, but there is a similar, like, underlying theme there.
Until Plot pops his shirt off, shows those muscles, and starts watching Die Hard. And
then
that girl starts getting a little more adult.
It almost sounds like you could reverse the timeline, and, like, Erin could be someone who lived in a bunker for 15 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when she first shows up on The Office, like, she could have just stopped telling people, that was the case, and then she was just like an orphan because she was like an orphan. She grew up in like
in foster homes,
like foster care. So like that could have been like the alternate story for her. But I could definitely see it.
I'm sure there's some weird fan theory on Reddit where they outline this exact situation.
Yeah,
but yeah. And next you see her at a park, and there's like a horse there, and she sets the horse free. She's like, "You deserve to be free," coming from her situation.
I wish there was like a joke with like the horse ran through the park trampling people.
What I thought about that was I like horses, but I keep my distance from them, right? Because I'm terrified of them.
They're so strong.
I just don't think it was so easy to unbridle a horse and let it run away. Like, she has no idea what she's doing. She walks up to like a handsome cab horse and just like clicks a button and the thing just runs away. I was like, are they just connected that minimal?
She's from Indiana.
But no, what you see her do though, I'm saying like the act of it, I always thought that it would be a much more thorough process to unhook a horse.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
And then as she continues with her walk, then the last thing we see in this kind of montage of things she's doing out on her own was she's at like a newsstand. She like grabs like a paper. She's looking for a place to live, and she sees this kid there, and he's like stealing a piece of candy. she's like, hey, and like stops him and like runs up. It's like, I saw you steal this, and asking where his grown up is. And then she's like, are you alone? Are you some kind of tiny businessman?
Because he's dressed in a suit.
See, that joke doesn't land for me though, because little kids wore suits to go to school in 2000.
That's not new to the modern generation.
Yeah. Like, it's funny when she said, like, the line itself I think is very funny, but the joke doesn't work because she would have seen kids going to private school.
Right. I think the follow-up joke kind of like aids into her being a kid. Like, the kid's yelling stranger danger, and she's like, I'm not stranger danger. I'm a stranger danger ranger.
I do love a 3 times rhyme.
This did make me think of something, though. So everybody as a kid stole something, right?
A lot of things. Yeah, like...
I want to ask you if you remember the first thing you stole, because I remember the first thing I stole, and it was Jay who showed me how to steal it.
Oh, that doesn't make me look great. I don't.
Nope.
I honestly don't remember the first.
It was
time
a pin from Newberry Comics, and you showed me how to just pin it to the inside of your sleeve.
Oh yeah, that was my move.
You got into the game late. We were doing
I
that
did,
trick
yes,
late
yeah.
in life.
I was a good boy, man, until I started fucking hanging out with you guys and stealing pins that I didn't even want.
I always did kind of have like a rule though, where I really didn't like to. Not that it makes it better. Okay, let me say this, and I'm speaking as a 38-year-old man talking about the acts of a 14-year-old boy. But at those times, like, I've never felt bad stealing from like a company, like a bigger company, because like they just like sign it off. It's like no one's getting hurt. Like I would never have stole from like a little mom and pop shop and things like that. Like that.
You used to steal from that mom and pop magic shop at Harvard Square.
That was a mom and pop shop.
Yes, it was. Oh, you think it was owned by Big Magic? Like
Copperfields.
I never looked at that one as like a mom and pop shop.
I'm just smiling thinking about how fun it was that Harvard Square used to be able to sustain a magic shop. It's such a different world now.
I think that magic shop ended up moving to Faneuil Hall too.
It did, yeah.
Wow, then they were selling a lot of magic.
It was like a weird thing I used to like to steal. We can't talk about this too much. But like when we would go to those like magic shops, so like the one in Faneuil Hall, I still love the pens that looked like syringes.
Oh,
I thought you were going to go with the naked lady pens. I thought
no, we
you were going with that story.
Yeah.
No, those were the syringe pens I thought were so cool at the time.
They were cool.
That's one of those things where, like, when I'm looking up interesting merch ideas we could do for the podcast, you'll end up on, like, some weird website that makes everything, and they're always like, syringe pens, and you're like, that'd be fun, and it's like, buy 10,000 of them. You're like, what am I going to do with 10,000?
Let's just do it. Let's just go on Alibaba and get 10,000 S1E1 syringe pens.
I'm fine with it. I'll just tuck them into everything I send to somebody. I've already been sending pills through the mail for the past couple of months. I'll start sending syringes, too. We'll see if I can really rank up.
After that scene, you see Kimmy like walking to an apartment that she saw in the paper, and you see the landlord Lillian sitting out front. Lillian's played by like the legendary Carol Kane, who, my God, she's been in 8 billion things over the years. I'll always remember her from Taxi.
A lot we covered.
She wasn't in the pilot though, which was unfortunate.
But yeah, she's Simca in Taxi. She's in Dog Day Afternoon. She's in one of Stranger Calls, Ferg, one of the weirdest 70s horror movies that's hard to watch now. But yeah, she's one of those weird legendary people. Coming up too, we'll probably be getting into Scrooged season. She's great in Scrooged.
What did she voice act? I feel like I recognized her voice a lot.
She was in the Addams Family, right?
She's the grandmother, yeah. In Addams Family Values, yeah. And
she's only like 72 now, I think, when I was looking up. Not that that's like super young, but like, still actively, working and stuff like that. Just people like that, she's been around so long that you almost think she's older.
I just love those working actors, right? Who were like, if it's fun, I'll do it, right? And just keep working and do little fun things.
Yeah. Betty White, like literally acting until she died.
To 99. She died when the People magazine cover said happy 100th birthday, Betty White. And she died like, it
was like her last joke. Like,
yeah.
Fuck you.
It was one of those things my dumb brain's like, this will be worth money. So as if like thousands of people didn't buy it for the same reason.
It's like the Death of Superman comic where everyone was like, buy 3 of these to be worth a lot of money. It's like, it's worth $4.
So basically, yeah, those 2 copies of People magazine will sit in my closet for 20 years. And then one day I'll check whatever eBay exists when we're old and find out that it's worth absolutely nothing. Probably less than what I paid for it. You go, oh, that was a waste of a long-term investment.
It's scarcity, right? If they didn't make a lot of them, it was a good investment, right? But there were millions of them made.
When Kimmy walks by her, I was having a little hard. She offered her a smoke and then asked her if she wanted. Was it heroin?
She said it as heron.
Oh yeah, all right. But that's what she meant, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
She says smoke heron, so I'm assuming by that she means weed. Like, do you want some smoke? Do you want some
Maybe
heroin?
she was offering her a nice fish. Want some herring?
Do you want some smoked herring?
That's probably what she actually meant. Yeah. So after offering some smoked herring, she's like, "Oh, I'm here about the ad." She's like, "Oh, the roommate ad." And she's like, "Yep, I own the building." She's like, "Come on, like follow me." And she's like, "You know, you're gonna really like Tituss. He's a very sweet boy, a little crusty on the outside, but a soft heart, like a wonderful French roll, but black." And she rings like the intercom speaker, and it's super faulty. I think like they did it so it was like so faulty that I think he drops an F-bomb, but you can't hear it. Like, who the fuck is that or something like? I thought it was something like that.
I think so, yeah. Which makes it feel too much like it's like an NBC show, right? Where because you can swear on Netflix, but they're probably making it so it's a like you think he said it joke because it's standard television. She's
talking about how it's gonna be wonderful to have a roommate because he's so isolated but so talented and delusional but a genius, and kind of going over all these things. It's smart because like just in these brief descriptions, it's so like wild. It's almost like she's speaking wildly, but just in this little bit of time, you find out a lot about him. Like he's gay and he's a singer, and you'll find out in a second anyways, but he's black. She's describing the entire character before you even meet him.
And we talked about this. I've got nothing against Tituss in this show or anything else, but he is a symptom to me of people I can't handle anymore because of commercials. Like those Wayfair commercials play so often where it's like, that is to the level of the like, what's your name? Fred. Like, you know, that fucking Pregagen commercial everyone plays all the time. Like the Tituss in those Wayfair commercials, I see so much that like I can't handle him in those commercials. I love him in this, but Jesus Christ.
I love those commercials because he's in it, and that's my only Tituss I have in my life now.
He's such a unique character, though.
So yeah, when Tituss finally walks outside, it's Tituss Andromedon, played by Tituss Burgess. Interesting, Tituss spelt different in his real name, 2 S's in his legal name, but Tituss here just the 1 S.
Tituss.
So Tituss plays Tituss, but different spellings, interestingly enough.
That seems weird to me. Like, if you're name the character what their name is, like, might as well just...
Yeah, just go with what they use.
Yeah, that's so weird. Just keep it the way it is.
So he's like, what's going on? And Kimmy's like, I'm your new roommate. And he immediately starts arguing with Lillian. And she's like, honey, you don't pay the rent. He's like, because I have no money. It's like it's so simple. And
I don't know why this made me double over laughing, but it was just so like matter of fact, like that excuse is okay. It was so funny to me.
And like Lillian, like she loves this guy. Like she doesn't want to evict him. She's trying like to help him. You know what I mean? He hasn't paid in months and she's letting him stay there. And it's like, you need to do something.
See, to me, he's a villain in this story until he gets redemption.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to get ahead.
I wouldn't say villain.
He hasn't paid his rent in months. He doesn't have a job. He gets worse and worse as this thing goes off.
He doesn't have any money, Joe.
Yeah, but then he tries to like fleece Kimmy.
Yeah, he tries to fleece Kimmy. He only goes out when she'll buy him drinks.
He does a lot of scummy. I'm not to get ahead, but he's historically done a lot of shady things.
He gets redemption, but if you're watching this for the first time, and we're watching this for the first time, saying what's going on here, as the episode goes on, I'm like, fuck this guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's tough to like for sure.
This I was okay with. You alluded to it. We'll talk about it in a minute. Later on, what he does bothers me. But he's asking her like, okay, like, all right, what's your current address? He's like, next question. He's like, can I see a letter of employment, recent pay stubs? Pay stumps, he says.
He does say stumps.
But also, why is he at...
This is not his fucking place. Yeah, you're not the fucking landlord. You don't own this fucking apartment.
You don't need 2 pay stubs.
He has to agree to his roommate. What if he just lets her in and she's a serial killer?
Then you ask different questions. You say, hey, are you a good person? What's your life like? What are you into? What do you do? That's fine. If you go, you don't have a job.
Yeah, he should ask more like character-driven questions.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure the apartment's in his name, so he's got to get that stuff.
He's not paying for the apartment. He has no position here.
It's still in his name.
we get to it. His rent is nothing.
The rent is fucking bananas for such a nice apartment in New York City. Yeah. Also, one bullshit thing about this apartment too, like it's a garden level apartment in New York City. Like there's no fucking bars in those windows. That is a bad move.
It also should have been a lot shittier.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in a second. It's not that bad, but all these questions do eventually lead to like, okay, so you don't work anyway, you don't have any proof of residence. So, even she's like, yeah, you are going to need to get like a job or something first. So she's like, all right, I'm going to get a job and, I'll come back. She's like, all right, well, the place is yours once that happens. So Kimmy heads off to like go find a job. And I like, as she's leaving, Lillian's like, and don't wear that yellow sweater because the Crips will think you're a banana boy. That's the new gang here. All the good colors were already taken.
That's also incorrect though, because this pegged me right away. I was like, the Latin Kings
The
were
Latin
yellow.
Kings use yellow, right?
And also, if you're going to go New York culture, if you think of Cruising, one of Al Pacino's finest movies, and you go for the handkerchief code, if you're wearing yellow in a gay bar, that means you are into P-play. You guys ever see Cruising with Al Pacino?
I did not.
No.
It's an amazing movie. He goes undercover to try to catch, he's a cop, he tries to catch a like serial killer who's preying on people in like gay S&M bars.
So Dahmer knockoff?
I think Dahmer kind of knocked it off.
Sounds a lot better than his movie, Jack and Jill.
It's a lot better than Jack and Jill.
Okay.
But not as good as Dick Tracy.
Ooh.
Which also has a lot of yellow in it.
I wouldn't mind a Banana Boys shirt.
I immediately thought that. I was like, we should probably make like a Banana Boys. And then I was like, is there a Banana Boys versus Goo Goo Boys showdown at some point?
I think there's a lot of cross sector there.
A lot of
I think it
crossing
would
over.
have to be the Goo Goo Boys versus whatever, fart boys pun you could make.
It'd be funny if we were just really ignorant and there really was a Banana Boys gang and they started fleecing us. Are you putting out our merch?
I'm going to Google the Banana Boys. I wonder what comes up.
That might not go the way you want it
Do you have safe search on?
Yeah, make sure you're incognito, Nick.
There's a lot of Banana Boys stuff, actually.
Get on the boat, the banana boat. Remember that commercial?
Get on the banana boat.
Bananaboys.com.
Nick crashes out from the viruses from bananaboys.com.
Banana Boys is a novel about 5 Chinese Canadians. Yellow on the outside, white on the inside.
Okay. No.
I didn't write this. It's just a book.
Nope. Okay, so
It's just funny how funny Ferg thought it was.
Berg whistled before the hook. Yeah.
Chinese Canadians.
Why is that funny to you?
I do like in Ferg's brand, like the idea of like all of the, Chinese people who migrated to America. The mere thought of them just going slightly north of that would be like so bizarre.
They went to Ontario.
There's no Chinese people on Shoresy.
No.
I don't want to take that as a definitive statement, but I can't think of any.
Anyway, so moving right along. So now Kimmy heads over to the first place she can think of to look for a job, and that's the candy store that she was in earlier. And she's like, she's trying to sound more like what she thinks an adult sounds like. Hi, I'm Kimmy. I'm a big fan of your products, particularly the shark gummies, which I hadn't seen anywhere else before. And I'm interested in an employment opportunity you might have.
She's very well spoken.
Here? Or
in this specifically, she has no background in interviewing for a job at all. Like, at all. And does this perfectly.
Well, you got to remember, she is still like if we're to think that she was abducted when she was like 13, 14, like she has enough history. She wasn't like 5. So she has enough in the bank that like, and even then she's still just acting the way she remembers adults acting in her childlike brain.
Also, gummy sharks existed back then. Come on.
Well, shark bites did, though. We all had shark bites.
I'm saying they existed back then.
Yeah.
Well, there was the fruit snack gummy sharks.
Yeah.
That had like the white ones.
Yeah, the white ones were a different flavor, right?
Yeah, but when I worked at the movies, we had the pick and mix. We had gummy sharks.
Well, those like the bigger ones, like the more like the ones that are like kind of like opaque blue, right? With the white.
That's what she
in it.
has, though, is the big ones. From
Yeah,
the
that's what
mix.
she's referring to. But the old fruit snacks, like those were like a classic 90s fruit snack.
Yeah, I don't think they make those anymore.
I don't know, but probably not. Now these damn kids are just eating hummus and stuff.
You'd be surprised what they still make when you go to like the dollar store and like you just find old foods that like were around from when you were like, I didn't know they still made this.
Okay, soda. They're still making this? Like, it's 40 years old. Like, I don't drink that.
I knew that it had made a return in the area not long ago, like slightly, and the Clearly Canadians, like I'd seen one once in a gas station, and then when I went to visit Joe, like a few weeks back, a month ago, whatever, I went to a store a few minutes from his house, and they legit had like 8 different flavors of Clearly Canadian. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
But it's not good. I loved it as a kid. It's not good now. It's too sweet.
You know why? Because like in your brain now, you think it's more of a seltzer. And you go to drink it, and it's very sweetened, and you're not expecting that.
Yeah,
when you
and
take
it's not the
sip.
good kind of sweeten.
So you take a sip, and you're like, huh? And then you turn it around, and you go, oh, this has like 200 calories, and you think it's just like seltzer water.
Not refreshing, no alcohol, pass.
Just get a bottle of Orbeez or whatever they were called.
Bottle of what?
Yeah, what is it?
The
Orbeez?
drink with the little orbs in it.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. What was that? Hold
I
on.
don't remember that.
They were very popular. Well, they weren't popular because they got discontinued, but they were in every store in like the 90s.
Not like the tapioca gross balls they put in tea and stuff, right?
No, and those are great, by the way. And they're called Orbits. I'm going to put a picture.
Close.
You're going to know exactly what he's talking about when I put it in the chat right now. I can't believe you. I would have never, ever thought of these again in my life.
I don't remember these.
Yep.
Yeah,
Really?
this isn't like flagging my memory either that much.
I definitely remember these.
They're cool looking. I feel like I would have remembered them. They
Buy
almost look
some old
like
expired ones on eBay. I'll drink one.
Okay.
I'll put it on the Instagram.
Because this isn't for
Jay
the
was like,
picture
my
either,
heartburn's so bad. You drink expired by 30-year-old beverages. Oh, what worse? What could happen? Nothing bad, right?
Hitting the old eBay right now. See if I can find.
Also, be careful buying full beverages in glass. When I had COVID the first
Don't
time,
tell me
it was
how to
really-
buy things.
Look, I bought a bunch of Pepsi bottles from Mexico because you could only get you can buy like Coke from Mexico here, like at stores, but you couldn't find Pepsi, and I really wanted it because I could only taste soda when I had COVID. It was the one thing my tongue recognized for some reason. And I ordered an entire case of it, and they smashed it along the way, and I had to repack it. So they gave me like 6 bottles of Pepsi. And I was so excited, but they didn't clean the bottles. I didn't think of it. And then I had a mouthful of glass at one point, and I was like, oh no. And I was so afraid I was going to cut my urethra open peeing the next day that I just couldn't even drink them. It was a nightmare. So be careful ordering glass through the mail with beverages in it. There's danger.
I can get a bottle for $40.
$40?
For one bottle?
It's very discolored. I couldn't let you drink that.
No, Jay's fine. He'll do it. It's for the podcast.
I said what I said.
We need our host. He's not drinking that.
Anyways, to reel this back in. So she's in the middle of this interview. I don't even know if it's an interview, if she's just running up to this woman and asking for employment, but
It's definitely not an interview. Yeah, this is just spouting at the cashier.
But while she's talking, she looks over and she sees that kid from earlier who was stealing at the newsstand. So as soon as she sees him, she just starts chasing after him. And, again, you get the stranger danger. And she walks him all the way home. So I don't know how this happened. She catches up to him, then grabs him and then demands his address and walks him all the way home.
I mean, kids think adults are authority, right? That's a scary thing, right? It's you think someone's an authority, you're going to listen to them.
She rings the doorbell. It's kind of like a gated, a nicer house in the area. And this is when we meet this kid, Buckley's mom, Jacqueline Voorhees, by the way. And she's
Neat.
played by Jane Krakowski, who we know again from 30 Rock. So you have that connection between her and Tina Fey.
We mainly know her though from Vacation.
I feel like she's done other shows.
I'm not disagreeing with her. Obviously that was a big role, but I think now when people see her, I think they think of 30 Rock first.
I love 30 Rock and I love her, but my heart will always be Vacation.
Sure. I just think I think her legacy now more falls in line with 30 Rock.
That's fair.
But yeah, she comes out. She's playing that of an old, not old, just a rich woman in the area. The perfect example really is the fact that she thought Kimmy was the dog masseuse. So if that's as much about the character right there.
I'm so sad Gordo's not on this episode where we could pick his brain about what his dog masseuse does and what the cost for that is.
He's his dog's masseuse.
Yeah.
Every time he has a good masseuse, they give him a new giblet for his Crocs, and we just go from there.
They're going back and forth. She's just trying to figure out what this girl is, and Kimmy's just like, no, I'm just like a stranger. Like, your son was out, like, stealing whatever. And she has her son run in, and she's like, Buckley, get inside. Like, I'm not allowed outside.
Buckley is definitely a rich kid name, too, by the way. It's like a perfect rich kid name. Buckley.
I don't know. What about King of the Hill?
Buckley's Angel. Yeah, I guess he's the opposite of a rich kid. Hey.
Kimmy is like, what do you mean you're not allowed outside? And she's like, oh, I had a face peel. And she's like, is that your reverence? She's looking at the photo, like the painting that's behind her of the guy. Did he peel your face?
I laughed so fucking hard at this because this joke works, right? Because when you're 14, you don't know what the fuck a face peel is. I'm 38. I don't know what a face peel is.
I was going to say, I'm 39. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, like I have no idea. I know it's like a treatment. I don't know exactly what they do.
And it does sound like something that someone who has you like locked in a dungeon for 15 years might do to you too.
Would do to you, yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that's like a facelift. Maybe they, peel your face.
I think it's like a chemical face peel, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
like a face
yeah.
pulls like the toxins out of your pores and stuff.
I'm sure we sound real stupid to a lot of people listening right now, but yeah.
And they all know too that we've got terrible skin, I'm sure.
But she thinks that she's like, part of a similar situation she was in. So now she's going, do you need help? Answer me honestly. Do you need help? And she's like, so obviously I do, but meaning more like she needs like staff. So now you cut to Jacqueline walking Kimmy into the house, and she's like, all right, it's going to be $17 an hour. Cash is under the table. You'll need to sign an NDA and a DNR. And she's like, do you get sick in helicopters? She's like, I never have.
An NDA and a DNR.
Imagine signing a job like, work here. Okay, great. But like, you have to sign a do not resuscitate order. What's going to happen at this job?
Yeah.
Also, that only works out to, with inflation now, $47,000 a year, which is basically impossible to live in New York City unless you have like 17 roommates.
That's tough anywhere, especially New York City, though.
I did under the table, though. Under the table, no taxes. You'd be making $47,000 a year right now.
47 under the table is not bad.
It is in New York City.
Yeah, but think you lose half in taxes. That's like making $90,000.
I mean, if your rent is average $2,000 a month, though.
But we've seen she doesn't have a very high rent.
She doesn't have that. Yeah, she lives in like a weird fantasy world.
And with the roommate, so in fairness, like to the times and stuff, I'm saying like under the table, that's not bad.
I am surprised though. She's rich and doesn't understand money. Like she takes the water, offers her one. She doesn't know. Instead of putting it back, she throws it away. So you think she'd be like, oh, $100 an hour or something like that. Like,
right?
Because she doesn't understand the value of cash because she has so much.
Would actually work for the story too, like her not having like a strong value of the dollar and giving Kimmy more money than she should have, like keeps Kimmy funded for like wild stuff.
Yeah,
throughout the show, But yeah, so she's walking her through and she's telling her the job, like she's gonna have to be here by 6 o'clock every morning to get Buckley up for school, and then says, "Get me up at 10, but don't wake me up."
I like that line, even though I don't understand it.
I was gonna say I don't get the line.
I think it's made to just be like a funny, insane, eccentric thing.
I think it's like, come get me at 10, but if I'm asleep, leave me.
Maybe she wants her to weekend at Bernie's her around.
Is that like when my 6:45 alarm goes off and I go, I'm not fucking getting up till 7? Fuck that.
She asks her if she's good at braiding hair. She's like, I'm awesome at it. Like, fantastic. Of course, you'll have to meet the horse first.
Oh, braiding a horsey's hair sounds so fun, though.
Ferg, you mentioned it. She's like, do you want a water? She's like, no, thanks. And she just takes it out of like a fridge that's just for water and immediately throws it in the trash.
It's like one of those rich people fridges too that's all glass, so you can see everything inside of it, and it's just bottles of like expensive square water.
FYI, I was talking about this recently. I hate how much I love Fiji, and we would talk. I think we've maybe even talked about this on the show before. The Penn and Teller's bottled water is bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that episode.
And I'm calling bullshit on that because I would definitely be able to tell at least the difference between bottled and tap. But specifically bottled spring water is so good. I think Fiji is fantastic. Poland Springs is fantastic. I'm not telling you I could tell the difference between them, but if it was between those and tap, 100% I could tell you.
I don't know.
Tap definitely. Tap has an aftertaste.
I think what Jay was just going to say is where I was going to go to. The colder the water, the better the water. And
cold
the less
hides a lot. And then you got to remember the presentation. Like on that show, they're at a restaurant. It's being served to them in a fancy bottle. Like, you believe what you want to believe in those situations. You know, you want to believe you're getting a quality product. You want to justify the money you just spent.
Sure, yeah.
And for cold, too, if you guys remember this, too, and I'm not trying to be anywhere, like, near elitist because I drink garbage, but, like, when Budweiser came out with those metal bottles, their gimmick at the liquor stores was they had the, like, cold sensor. It was like, these bottles of beer are fucking 33 degrees. They're right before freezing. They're the coldest beer you ever have. And you'd buy one, and you'd open it, you'd drink it, and you'd be like, wow, that's really good for the first sip, because you can't taste anything.
Wasn't that Coors Light?
It was Coors Light. And
Coors had the mountains that the color changed.
They turned blue, yeah.
Budweiser had those are the cans, though. Budweiser had, like, aluminum bottles, and they would have, like, separate coolers that were just full of those. You buy one singular one to be like, try the one cold beer. And it was great at first, and then the second sip, you're like, oh, this is terrible.
Coors Light is, I'm not a beer snob at all. I'll pretty much drink anything. I will not drink Coors Light. I think it's the most disgusting beer ever
I'm with
made.
you. Tastes like feet.
Yeah, it's so bad.
I'm a strict Miller man. It's High Life or Light, and that's it.
Sorry, Brock Lesnar.
I don't, not a fan of, like, the basic originals.
Actually, I'm with Joe, and I still drank a lot of light beer. Miller was my go-to.
Miller Lite tastes like a beer.
Yeah.
High Life is always going to be my go-to, like, favorite beer ever, but I'm hitting a point as I get older where I'm like, you feel a few of them, you know?
They still make MGD.
I think so.
I feel like I'd never see it. I used to drink it a lot back in the day.
I was saying the other day how I used to love drinking Rolling Rock before Budweiser bought it, but then you never see it anywhere, and then I only see it now at Walmart.
That's where it belongs.
Yeah, it makes sense. But it was such a good beer at first. It was like, we make it from water that comes out of a mountain, and we make it in this weird little town in Pennsylvania, and it was delicious.
It was a very different beer back then, and now it's Anheuser-Busch's cheap beer. I don't know why they bought it, just to change it and make it different, but
it's like the only tall boy you can buy at Walmart. That is not a good signal for the quality level.
Anyways, she now introduces Kimmy to Charles. He's Buckley's tutor, but by tutor, he just sits there and does his homework for him.
You know what? I didn't pick up on that. That's a good little joke that I didn't even realize.
Yeah, she's like, you can help him do Buckley's homework. Also, tomorrow's Buckley's birthday, so she needs to make a cake that's cute, but also paleo.
I immediately thought of Ferg.
Why? I'm not paleo.
It's keto. It's all the same shit.
Oh, you do keto, right? Paleo is the one that's like the cavemen, right?
Obviously not right now, but...
So paleo is basically just anything that's not cheese?
That's what cavemen ate.
Yeah, so like beef and vegetables, or like meat and vegetable, right?
Yeah, and rats. Yeah.
The paleo diet, also known as the Stone Age caveman or hunter-gatherer diet, is based on the idea that eating like our ancestors in the Paleolithic era can promote good health. Why can't I say diet? The diet focuses on eating whole, unprocessed foods that were available during the time, such as fruits, vegetables, lean meats, fish, especially those high.
Where am I going to find a brontosaurus burger?
For real.
In a better world.
Nuts, seeds, healthy fats like olive oil. Did cavemen live a long time? Because I don't think they did.
I was just going to say that. Like, let's have a diet of when people live to be 21. Like, that seems like a bad idea.
In the paleo era, the average life expectancy was 22 to 33.
But they felt great until they died.
In all fairness, I don't think it was their diets that killed them.
Right. It was disease and fucking big predators and shit, but...
Sure, yeah.
But, like, if a woolly mammoth was eating you and you were like, I could have had a chicken parm, you'd be fucking bummed out, you know?
Or eggplant parm. Oof.
No. You'd be like, I wish I died the second I took a bite of that eggplant parm when my life was meaningless immediately.
Had some eggplant a couple days ago. It's fantastic.
I'm so sorry for you. Maybe that's what's causing your heartburn. Your heart's like, stop feeding me the bullshit parm and give me the real thing.
No, unfortunately, it's not that. It's all my other poor decisions. So as everything's going on, she's kind of, giving her the wrap up. Joe, you'd love this. Kimmy goes, what in the ham sandwich? I just got a job.
I do love what in the ham sandwich, and I immediately wanted a ham sandwich.
The kid Charles looks at her and he's like, please tell me that you're normal. I need someone here to talk to. She's like, oh, I'm very normal. I've had everything normal happen to me.
I like how that was very tongue-in-cheek for her.
And then from there you cut to Tituss, who's walking home, and Lillian sitting on the stoop. It's like, Lillian, what's my doll furniture doing out on the curb? Like, that's all I could carry. Tomorrow the real movies are coming, Tituss, to evict you.
That's a funny joke at first, but then when you see his apartment, it's a way funnier joke because he has like such a nicely furnished apartment with so much stuff that's what she could take out.
Well, she's like older, you know?
Yeah. Well, she's not going to carry his fucking Iron Man costume.
They're arguing back and forth. Like when he finds out, he goes, Lillian, I helped you take a shower once.
That's my favorite line of the whole show.
Also, Jay's Tituss is pretty good.
It's pretty good, but I'm also like, are you allowed to do that? There's a lot there where I'm like, I don't think you're allowed to do that.
I don't think he's doing anything bad.
Yeah. Joe's overly cautious.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, like, yeah, until I'm not, right? Obviously, it's how that goes. But I just worry that sometimes maybe one of us is going to step in something here.
So now Kimmy shows up and she's telling them, hey guys, I got a job. It pays $17 an hour and it's under the tables. But, I can get advanced payment fee right now with my tax refund. Can you just see like the stack of cash that's in her bag?
It's a backpack full of money.
Her carrying that money around gave me so much anxiety throughout the episode. Like,
yeah. Does everybody have their wallets on them right now? How much cash does everybody have in their wallet at current time?
$0.
Zero.
My wallet's not on me at the moment, but I hardly ever have cash on me.
Debit card, baby.
I think there's about like $3 or $4 in my pocket, actually, like downstairs. But
$133.
I never carry cash.
I got some spare change in the car.
I've got $1 and a receipt from the pizza place. That's what's in my wallet currently.
What are you going to return a pizza, Joe?
No, there's actually a reason for this. So one time we went to the pizza place and I like bought dinner or whatever, and we had a few drinks, whatever, and we like were driving. We were like halfway home, and I was like, I forgot to add the tip on the actual receipt I gave to the server, and we had to like turn all the way back. And I'd be like, I think this just happened. Can I see the receipt? And they like pull it out, and I like totally forgot. Like I would have stiffed them. So now I make sure that I make both exactly mirrored, so I can put one in my wallet and make sure I did it right.
Okay.
You could just take that experience to make extra sure you double check before you hand it to them.
Yeah, well, sometimes when you're at a place, though, when you know that you don't have to drive home, and they're like, would you like the big pint or the little pint? You need a little extra insurance that you did the right thing.
I like the idea of Joe returning a single slice of pizza.
I'm sorry, this has bread on it.
Lillian's like ready to kick Tituss out. She's like, oh, I'll have his stuff out by tonight. And he's like, Lillian, I've decided that I will be taking a roommate. Oh, you've decided that, have you? And the two start arguing again. And that's when Kimmy's like, actually, I'd rather live with someone. I'm kind of used to having roommates.
I understand her point of view here, but again, this is another Tituss is a villain scenario.
For sure, in a moment. So, like, they had in...
That's survival. That's not villainous. That's...
Well, she's asking, as they're walking into the apartment, Lillian's asking Tituss, well, when am I going to be getting my money? And he's like, what about my money? Slavery reparations, Lillian. She's like, touche, you people have suffered.
Yeah, I liked her response there.
It's a great response, yeah.
So Tituss walks him into the apartment, and I did think it was a very, like, average, normal kind of New York apartment. It's nothing flashy. It's kind of small. It's
not square footage wise. I feel like this is way too big.
It's pretty big. I've slept in a lot of shitty New York apartments in my life, and this is nicer than most of them.
Queen sized. Do we know what borough they're in? This gives a Queen's apartment vibe.
This does feel Queensy, I would say, or like further out in Brooklyn, maybe, but you have no idea because you just take the train, right? Like they don't give you any distance to where they are later.
She walks in and she sees like what we find out later is a costume. It's like, is that a real robot? Do people have robots now? He's like, what?
It's insane to me, and I get it, right? Like you come home from work or whatever, or you go to bed and you change your clothes and you like toss stuff on like a pile or a chair or whatever. Like that's what people do, right? Like they don't fold everything up or whatever. But the idea that he puts his whole costume like it's a sitting human on a chair next to his bed is a weirdly terrifying thing to me.
He's going, that's my bedroom. You're going to be staying in my office, which was just a legit closet.
No, it's bigger than a closet.
It is a closet. That's what it is. It is physically a closet.
I've never had a closet in an apartment that was that big before.
I've never had a closet with a window.
It's a big closet. It's definitely a closet, though.
Like a laundry room.
And she's so excited by it, though. She's like, oh, I will be very comfortable in here. It's like 2 Cindy's by a Gretchen. Like, that's her form of measurement.
The equation's pretty good.
And she's like, oh, and I have my own window? And then she notices the sliding door, which she's super excited about, and does the, like, she keeps opening and shutting it and making, like, a different funny face each time she opens it again.
Joke usually done with your hand.
Yes.
Or if you're Ace Ventura going, oh, which is immediately what I thought of.
Double pane soundproof glass.
This is just like Roger Predactor's apartment.
So she starts putting her stuff away, which is basically nothing because he just has like a backpack that's not even like, it's a pretty empty backpack. It's not like it's a stuffed camping bag or anything like that.
Also, we found out at 14 she was reading Babysitter Club books, which I feel like is a little too late for that.
Well, that might have just been what was thrown in the bunker. You know, like, you don't know if that's what she had from her before life either.
I guess it's fair.
He's going, hey, where's the rest of your stuff? She's like, oh, this is it. And he's like, no, you've got a secret. You moved to New York City today with a bag full of cash, no stuff, and what's clearly a wig. Somebody here has got some beans to spill. I was kind of surprised by the wig comment. I didn't think her hair looked that fake.
Doesn't track for me. Yeah, it doesn't look like she has crazy hair or a crazy color of hair or a crazy anything. She just has hair.
Her hair is too nice to be real. It's not been ruined by, like, I think that's what he's getting at. Everyone in New York's fake.
Sun and bleaching, and maybe she just has Vidal Sassoon.
So she's ready to come clean. It's like, okay, well, the truth is I'm from Indiana, and he cuts it right off. All right, that explains it. So you're basic. Say no more. And this is where he kind of acts a little too sketchy. Let's get this dirty rent business out of the way. He's like, first, obviously we owe Lillian 2 months of back rent, so that's $950, meaning they pay $475 a month, which
fucking
is like crazy. Yeah. Plus the upcoming month, and of course, there's 1 month security deposit.
He's a fucking villain in the scene, so hard.
Funny thing is, though, that's still only what? So it's $950 and $950, so that's $1,900, which is probably less than what that apartment would actually cost today.
Oh my god, that apartment, there's no way that costs $2,000 a month. That's definitely like a $3,000 to $4,000 apartment a month. So
she hands him all the cash, and he's like, oh, and also, like, ever since you moved in, this lamp stopped working, so that's going to be another $100. And that's when I was like, oof. She's like, nice try, Tituss. There's no light bulb in there. He's like, oh, you got me. You are very cosmopolitan. And I'm glad she, like, picked up on that, like, didn't give him the 100 for the lamp, and, like, was smart enough to notice the light bulb thing. But they also kind of, like, teeter it where, like, she gets it but doesn't totally get it. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't pay him off or anything and sees there's no bulb and is smart enough to, like, not give him the 100, but doesn't really, like, she's still innocent enough to kind of trust him. You know what I mean? Like, they played an interesting line there.
I mean, she should be gullible. She was tricked into a cult and thought the world ended.
True.
But Tituss is also a serial killer, right? So you're in your house, right? And a lamp dies. You're like, oh shit.
You take the bulb out and leave it?
You don't take the fucking bulb out? That's insane. You go buy new bulbs and then you switch them.
Maybe he found that lamp outside and brought it in, but never got around to buying a bulb for it.
Maybe the bulb broke.
Then you...
Maybe you used a potato to take it out.
I was going to say, did you use a potato or is there a little stem in there?
Now Kimmy's asking Tituss, what do you want to do tonight? He's like, honestly, listen to Diana Ross albums alone while I do my stretches to alleviate my gas.
Just picture Tituss stretching and farting all night.
We don't get anything now, but down the line, not to get ahead, Tituss and his gas causes one of the best moments in the show's history.
And he falls and farts.
Why?
She's like, we should celebrate. She's like, I got a job today. I got an apartment. I met you. And he's like, oh, I envy you. I've never been able to meet me. Which I love that line.
That's the other line where you're like, you're a fucking villain.
She's like, come on, we should go dancing someplace cool, like Club Bombay from Moesha, which is a show that we should cover eventually. Moesha used to be huge.
I thought we did.
No, we did not cover Moesha. That's another one, too, where you have to be like, she's out of jail now, right?
You went to jail?
Wait, Moesha's in jail?
She, like, drunk driving killed somebody. That's why that show's, like, not in reruns anymore, because she kind of, like, killed her whole career.
I think that's also, like, one of those, like, WB, UPN type shows that, like, just are, like, lost in history, yeah. But anyways, one day.
But Club Bombay was a teen club on that show, so I don't think there was liquor there. Kind of like the juice bar in Power Rangers.
He's like, wow, things are behind in Indiana. And she goes, I'll pay for everything. And then he starts singing I literally can't with my voice, but the I'm coming up. But he does the I'm going out.
He does do a lot of singing in this episode.
He's got pipes. He sings
Yeah,
his
he
character
can
sings a
sing.
lot. He has pipes. He in
For
real
sure,
life
yeah.
has done Broadway and stuff like that.
Pinot Noir.
Pinot.
Now we cut to the two of them at the club dancing, and like Kimmy walks up to the bar, and there's two girls sitting next to where she's standing, and one of the girls like, "Hey, do you want to party with us? Are you into Molly?" And she's like, "Am I? She's my favorite American Girl doll."
I thought you were going to go with Ringwald.
I would have preferred that. I will say, because now in my non-incognito history, I was like, which one is Molly in the American Girls? I ended up on the modern American Girl website. You can buy so much stuff. I was like, $22 for a tumbler with Molly on it. Is it funny enough to buy one of those for our next giveaway? But then I just did not want to be on that mailing list.
Too late. They have your info.
Yeah, now they know. But also, like, good for her and the instinct, because if you're in a fucking bar and someone goes, "Hey, do you want free drugs?" The immediate answer is, "No, thank you."
Well, she didn't even know she was turning down free drugs.
I know, but her instincts knew. If somebody you don't know offers you free drugs, do not say yes.
Also, you better hope that your daughter doesn't get into American Girl dolls, or you're gonna go broke.
Dude, there's like 10 versions of that one. There's like a fucking beret one. There's a baseball player one. There are books galore. There's PDFs. You can buy a PDF that says, "Learn more about Molly." That's fucking crazy.
Don't worry, Joe. Even if she doesn't get into that, there's always something.
Oh, there will be something.
Funny enough, Office reference. That's where Angela gets some of her clothes.
That's true.
That's true.
That's what she can fit into.
We cut back to the dance floor, and I thought this was great. This was like the perfect line for a character like in her situation. "Tituss, dancing is about butts now."
I like the little dance she did when she said that too.
I meant to look up what the biggest songs of 2000 would have been, but I just spaced on
We
it.
can look that up.
Yeah, the year 2000.
I'm looking 2015, like where she would be.
Supersonic by Jamiroquai.
2015, she'd be dancing to things like maybe All About That Bass by Meghan Trainor, Shake It Off, Taylor Swift.
It's funny, when we were like just turning 21 in 2006 and 2007, if you hear any of those songs, like there's those songs that come on and you're like, I remember hearing this 1,000 times in the Purple Shamrock or whatever. And they are so objectively bad. The songs are just awful. Like they're terrible.
There's a reason there's not like a nostalgia for that time.
Yeah.
I got a song that came out in 2015. 2015, the year Cool for the Summer by Demi Lovato that came out that recently
Get out of
went
here
all
with
away.
that.
It's a fantastic song.
Jay's
Fantastic
always had a
song.
weird Demi Lovato thing. I've never heard Demi Lovato's name
She's a fucking
anywhere.
psychopath.
The song's great. It's a great song.
Who is this?
Demi Lovato.
I'll ask again. Who is this?
So she's a girl that shaved her head short and she sings to ghosts now to try to reach
You don't sing
them.
the Ghost now.
Well, that sounds kind of fun.
She was like a Disney kid who became like mainstream popular.
Because Disney kills people's fucking childhoods, makes them crazy as adults.
It's a small act, Joe. She can sell out arenas, so obviously you wouldn't know about her.
I wasn't saying it like that, like I was trying to get some sort of points here. I was just saying, like, I don't know who that is or that song is. Like, if you sang a bit of it, I would have been like, oh, do I know that?
Now we see Kimmy talking to a guy, and he's like, "Hey, let me grab a couple drinks." And he like takes off for a second. And while she's waiting for him to come back, Tituss walks up and she's like, "Hey, is it like weird having like this backpack on? Like, does it look like childish, babyish?" And he goes, "It is a backpack," and walks off. And she's like, all right, because she's trying to talk to this guy. So now she like lowers her bag, but she has it so her foot is still like going through like the armhole.
See, they fucked up here because her questioning of the backpack shot, she's already getting attention. There was nothing to make her like question it.
This dude's already buying her drinks, yeah.
Well, I guess in that moment, like maybe she was like, it was in the back of her brain. So
He's definitely interested. I'm surprised he wasn't trying to drug her. I thought that's where it was going. I couldn't remember how she lost her bag, but I remember she loses her bag. I thought like he like roofied her or something.
no, I think that, well, I mean, it would have been a super dark twist for this episode. But no, he comes back and he goes, "Hey, you know, you're like the hottest girl in here." And she's like, "As if," opposite day. And she takes that drink, Joe at the start of the episode. She's like, "Oh, alcohol tastes good. I like it." She clearly hates this drink.
As if was already very dead in 2000.
Yeah, that's not a 2000s term.
They tried to do the whole blast from the past thing, but I don't think they remembered what happened in the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
Like, I think it maybe should have been from the 90s and make this take place a little earlier?
I think you're digging a little too deep in like that, just half of a sentence.
It's a lot, though. She doesn't act like a kid from the 2000s. She acts like a little kid from like earlier in life.
But easy, I just thought of it. Do you want another drink? Sure. Hit me baby one more time. Right? Like then you make it from that time, but it's still weird, right?
Her character I don't think is like, throughout the episode isn't overly throwing references from 2000 at you very much though.
Right, which I think is a problem though, because she's throwing a lot of references that don't track to the time she's supposedly frozen in or would have known.
Yeah, it's less about, and also if she did that the whole time, you would have been pissed that it was all pop culture references from.
Yeah, but like for example, the light up shoes she buys, those are very 90s. Those aren't a 2000s thing.
It's just her being a kid still, her still wanting to be a kid.
Yeah, I will say because they still sell those and I still see kids wearing them, that sort of works.
Well, they came back. Everything comes back.
Can you get those? Can I get ones with the, what are the ones that you had that were the freestyle walking shoes?
Soaps.
I had a pair and I could not do it.
That's what I remember you having them. Can we get soaps that have kickback lights on them? Because I want a pair of those at fucking almost 40.
Joe, get Heelys. I'll buy them for you.
That is like, how did Joe break his tailbone in 2 seconds? Is like the only way that would happen.
Joe's just dead in the woods with a moose licking him.
I'm not gonna help you.
So they're talking and he's like, hey, I want to kiss you. And she's like, yes, do it. And right as they're about to kiss, Ferg had already mentioned, this is when she falls forward and she's like, what does he say? What the fudge? And she realizes someone like took her backpack, which was smart. Like the whole like making it known that her foot was between it. And then so when the guy swiped the bag, she would fall. Like, I think this all kind of aids into that like Tina Fey, very clever, like, every little detail's thought of.
Yeah. And also, like, we see this, what show is it where they push the boy over the front porch railing? He takes, like, a huge bump.
Oh, Melissa and Joey. This dude takes, like, a Mick Foley through a table bump. It's fucking impressive. Yeah, so he's trying to help her up, but now she's upset because all her money was in the bag. Shoves the guy over. And then security comes and she punches the security guard in the face.
She fucking decks him too.
You never punch a bouncer in the face. It never ends well.
Yeah.
And then
Gordo's not on this episode either. The one person here I can guarantee you punched a bouncer in the face.
He did it on a 10-year reunion. Well, he tried to and failed.
So now we cut to her being kicked out like through the back exit of the club. She's like, come on, you gotta help me find my bag. It's a purple JanSport. And you see the bag and it's like out there. So she runs up to it, but obviously it's been emptied out. Then you just get her sad, like walking off and you see her like the lights of her shoes lighting up and the horse from earlier that she freed walks by, which again, you knew like, especially again with Tina Fey in her writing that there would be some sort of a payoff to that at some point.
Yeah.
It's my favorite joke of the whole episode. Just the lone horse reappearing and running in her path. So funny.
I like that the horse thing didn't have to become a major plot point later. Like the horse saves the day. It was just becomes a casually walks by to just kind of, put a bow on that.
In another writer's hands, that horse is like peeing on the backpack when she walks out. You know what I mean? Like to have it just be a throwaway like that is so much funnier.
From there, you see her like heading over to the house where she's supposed to be, watching this kid now. As that's happening, though, you see Jacqueline and Buckley walking to the car. And all you hear is her telling Buckley, like, actually, Buckley, this isn't your worst birthday ever. Your worst birthday ever is when you busted my genitals.
That is a fucking great throwaway line.
It really is a throwaway, too. It was just hilarious.
Because she just gets in the car. The kid doesn't say anything about it. Like, Buckley doesn't question it. It's just tossed off.
But the result of Kimmy going out last night was she didn't make the cake that she was supposed to for Buckley's birthday, which is probably why he thinks it's the worst birthday ever. She didn't get him up for school, so now Jacqueline has to get up early to take her son to school. She's running up. She's like, I'm so sorry. I was up all night. My money got stolen. I haven't had a clock since my Tamagotchi died. I think there is like a little bit of a disconnect because if she was in there for 15 years, I think it should have been a little longer. She's very in touch with her slightly younger than like 13-year-old self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Tamagotchis were probably well done by 2000, right?
It's definitely not Tamagotchi, by the way.
Tamagotchi.
I thought it was Tamagotchi.
It's potato. Everyone said it different.
Guess what? I never had one. And
yeah.
Guess what? I've never heard somebody say potato.
I don't know if it's, what'd you say, Tamagotchi? I don't think that's right either.
I don't think it's Gucci, though. I think it's
Everything's Gucci, boys. Don't worry about it.
Oh, so yeah. I don't even need to look that up. It's Gotchi. That's not Gucci. Tamagotchi.
Oh, I forgot that everything's phonetic. Yeah, my bad.
Well, that is...
Based on what? Based on just that would end your argument.
All right, well, go to Google and play it, because you'll see that I'm right and you are wrong.
Use Gordo's end-all, be-all with these arguments and put it in the talking thing.
Tamagotchi.
Tamagotchi.
Which is Japanese for egg watch.
They're such a literal group.
Anyways, she's like, Jacqueline is telling Kimmy, listen, this is it. This is strike 3. Kimmy goes, what were strikes 1 and 2? And as they drive off, she goes, has baseball changed?
I love that line.
Yeah, that's good.
The answer is yes. Baseball has changed.
I was going to say, it's a fun line, too, because I think we told this in the podcast before, but I was like sitting at the bar waiting for like our food order to come one day with my wife, and we were like just having a beer. And she asked me a question about baseball, and I literally had to be like, I don't know, because the rules changed so much. There was like a pitch clock going on, so I wasn't allowed to steal. It was like, I don't know what's happening anymore. I'm sorry. I knew this game my whole life, and now it's different.
I want to get into this rant, but I like the pitch clock. It's the only new rule I like.
I agree. Now she's walking back to her place and passes by Lillian, and Lillian's like, oh, walk of shame. Me too. Just sat down. And then she walks into her apartment. She's like, walks into her room, and she's like struggling with the shade to the window, and she's like, gets frustrated and like rips it down. And that's when Tituss walks up, and he's like, reconsider, girl. I was sleeping. It's like, they stole my backpack. What? I can't do this. Reverend Richard was right. And he goes, who? Reverend Richard Wayne Gary Wayne, senior prophet and CFO of Savior Rick Spooky Church of Scary Apocalypse. He goes, who? And she goes, I'm one of the Indiana mole women. He goes, from the news? Why didn't you tell me? It's like, because I just want to be a normal person. I don't know anything. I can't tell phones from cameras. Even policemen have tattoos.
That is a great line. As somebody who watches a lot of the TV show Cops, that's how you can tell the generation of Cops episodes, where it's like, oh, these guys all have full sleeves. It's a modern episode.
It is a different time. Like, that's even to this day. If I see like a cop with full sleeves, I'm like, that still doesn't fit in my brain. It still seems weird. And Tituss is saying, pack up your trifles and whatnots. He's like, what? He's like, get your things and go home. New York City's not for you. He's like, I don't understand. She's like, Tituss. He goes, girl, my name is not Tituss. My name is Ronald Wilkerson. I came here in 1998 on a damn bus from Chickasaw County, Mississippi. You know who lives in Chickasaw County? Nobody. Have you ever met a person from Mississippi? No, but I haven't met anybody.
Bobby Gentry is from Chickasaw County, and she had a number of very famous songs. So I will disagree with him there.
Have you met anyone from Mississippi?
I've been to Mississippi, so yeah.
Did you sleep there or just drive through?
We stopped in it, but we drove through. But Mississippi was one of those weird places where you could drink in the car if you weren't driving county to county. So my fun game was like looking up what county you could drink in and then drinking in the car until we hit a county you weren't allowed to drink anymore, and then like whipping the beer can out the window. Because like,
You not want to play the license plate game instead?
No, I wanted to play the I'm in Mississippi, so I want to get drunk game.
We love you, listeners from Mississippi.
I had a great time there, mainly fueled by Yingling.
I've never been. So he's continuing to say, like, my point is, and then he grabs this photo of himself from the shelf. This was me then. I was cute just like you. Showed my teeth when I smiled just like you. I changed my name to Tituss Androdimon, and I marched myself into an audition for The Lion King. She goes, you were in The Lion King on Broadway? Yes, except I was not. I auditioned for The Lion King 20 times in 15 years until they finally told me you're not passing as a straight giraffe.
I love the yes, except I was not line. I don't know why that was so funny to me, but like it's such a like bring you down to earth line. It's like, yeah, that's what I did, except no, I did not do that. Also, imagine going to 15 job interviews for the same place for 20 years and always getting told no and keep like that's just so fucking hard to think of.
Well, that's tough. You figure like a role like that, right? Like to be in like a musical like The Lion King is probably for some people like a lifelong goal.
Sure.
So, you're not going to stop trying. He's got the pipes. Maybe stop auditioning for the giraffe. Maybe try an audition for something else.
I love the line he got turned down in the interview, some of which he paid for. So he was just paying them to interview him after a while.
So depressing.
And she's saying, but you're such a good singer. I've heard you. And he's like, I have not sung in public in 3 years. You know what I do now? I dress up as that robot and I go into Times Square and pass out flyers for an arcade. My boss is 17 years old. I get paid in quarters, and I'm starting to think cab drivers are hitting me on purpose.
Getting paid in quarters is such a heavy load to bring home every night. It's so depressing.
You know what's great, though? If he's getting hit by cab drivers, he's getting paid by quarters. Must be like Sonic the Hedgehog. All the rings going everywhere.
I actually think this next line was maybe some of the smartest of the whole thing, was just when she's like, well, you got out of Mississippi, and he goes, escaping is not the same as making it. And that's like such a thing. Like, you think of all these people who like left town, and like people act about like in that way, like just the fact that you left town is some sort of a crowning achievement, but it doesn't mean anything unless you make something of yourself.
I think in this scenario, though, making it, I think, is putting too much emphasis on people knowing who you are, being famous. You know what I mean? We're like, I don't think that any of us have lived a sad life because we're not famous. You know what I mean? Like, it's...
No, but he had a goal. The goal wasn't to move to New York. The goal was to be on Broadway. So just because you successfully moved out of your town,
Sure.
he didn't achieve what he wanted to. It wasn't his lifelong dream. The part that was the dream wasn't the living in New York. Living in New York is something you have to do to achieve the dream because that's where it's located. But just being there doesn't, it doesn't do it.
But it doesn't make me feel like he is a more sympathetic character than anybody else who moved to New York or Los Angeles to make it and didn't. You know what I mean? Like, that's just most people who try to become actors, you know?
He's not supposed to be like a sympathetic character. He's just showing that he tried and failed, and he's trying to give her words of advice.
No, and I get that. And this is where he becomes not a villain, so I appreciate him in this scene.
I think his character definitely needed this at this point too, because he's honestly trying to help her too in this moment. He's not trying to just like take anything from her. He's being very real with her. He's showing that his life isn't like this dream, that there are struggles, and he's sharing his story with her. So he definitely, after the things that were happening before, he needed to do something like this.
He even gives the money back.
From the freezer?
I love that he keeps it in the freezer. That's like a drug thing, though, right? Like, you keep your stuff you don't be able to find in places you can't find it.
Maybe a New York.
Or you wouldn't look at it, yeah. Usually it's like, what, a Barbasol can? That's like the big thing you can buy, right? Like a shaving cream can, you put money in the bottom.
Or you can keep DNA from dinosaurs in there.
Dino DNA!
You know what? You overlook it, too. In giving her the money back, he's essentially getting himself thrown out.
Yeah.
That's the money he has to pay the rent.
She says that essentially. She's like, you're going to get evicted. He's like, don't worry about me. I'm pretty but tough like a diamond. Or beef jerky in a ball gown. Something about beef jerky in a ball gown, I think, is like, that needs to be like a song or something. Like, that needs to be written on something else.
It sounds like a late or early 2000s WCW match that Vince Russo wrote about Macho Man Randy Savage. It's a beef jerky in a ball gown match.
Does Dennis Rodman have like an autobiography?
Carmen Electra's pussy was like beef jerky in a ball gown. Sounds like something that Dennis Rodman would write. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that sounds like something he would write.
No, you are saying it. And it's that little bit extra that we always talk about. That nobody asked for. It's totally different direction.
I love you. Never change.
Thank you.
Change a little bit.
There's a point where he's like, I'm afraid to ask you this. And what he wants to know is how much money she had with her. But she goes, yes, there was weird sex stuff in the bunker. And I was like, her character's too innocent, and I didn't want to hear her say that. I was like,
yeah, I agree.
Because now it just feels like, even though she's an adult now, like she's too childish at heart. So it's like, I don't want to know about that. It feels even dirtier than it should.
I feel like it didn't bother me at first, and then I realized that likely the Reverend was involved.
He was. They were all his wives.
Right. So, but like in my brain when they said that, I was like, that's funny. Like all four of them were bored in there or whatever. But I realized I was like, oh, John Hamm is an evil man who was having sex with all of them.
Yeah, and even if it's like when they're all adults, it's like her brain is that of a child still. So it's like, also the actual answer to the question that he did want to ask about the money was $13,000 she had in her backpack.
That's a guap right there.
But it's not a life-changing amount of money to move to New York. You know what I mean?
No, but it gives you the buffer to like live okay until you get everything figured out to you're now in complete danger and have nothing.
The thing is, it's an amount of money that's gone. So it could have been a lot. There's no harm in making it more. It could have been 50 grand or anything like. So I don't know why they made it that low.
Any one of us on this podcast lost $100, it would be a problem. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that losing $13K isn't a big amount of money. I'm just saying that in my brain, if I wrote this, I would have made it way more. So she would have been okay otherwise.
The next scene after all of this is Kimmy at the bus station, and she's, about to move back home. And she's holding a plastic bag and it's leaking. It was like just like a plastic shopping bag. She's like, oh, dang it. And she goes over to the trash and her strawberry milk opened up. And she's like trying to like go through her bag now and like seeing what's in there and what got wet. And she's like, oh, the Secret Santa gift. And she opens it up. And it was like, what's that called? It's not like knit. What is that when you...
Cross-stitching.
Is it cross-stitching? Yes. So it's like a cross-stitched map from Cindy that was like, basically like says someday, like places that they're going to go. And it's a map of the world. But it's like some of the continents aren't quite right. So Europe... Mostly it's just Europe in Asia are written as London and China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think America USA was all of North America, and then it said South America. And I think they got Africa and Australia right.
I didn't look to see if Antarctica was on there.
It wasn't. I looked.
Okay.
And she threw that out too, which I thought was a little weird in the moment.
I felt bad in that scenario. I'm glad she picks it back up, but I was like,
yeah.
Even if you're... Like, I don't know. I understand being like, I'm going to get rid of every shred of my past or whatever, but like, that's a sweet gesture and you should probably keep it.
No, I think she was just throwing away stuff in a fit. And then, because she goes back to get it when she realizes.
Well, the only reason she goes back to get it is she looks down, and while she's looking into the trash, she sees the rat and she has a flashback to the bunker. And that's when you see the four girls all sitting and listening to the Reverend. Joe, you mentioned a second ago that it's John Hamm. We don't see that in this episode. You can hear his voice, obviously. And he was credited. So like, if you do the legwork, you'll figure out who it is. Did you see that in real life? He was before he like broke in, like became like a star. He was a drama teacher, and like Ellie Kemper was one of his students.
I did not see that. No.
Yeah, they're both from Kansas City.
He had like a pretty fucked up upbringing, didn't he?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not saying no. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know much about his past. I just know that he's very talented.
He's one of those guys that like you didn't expect him to be funny because like he came up from some dramatic roles, and then you're like, oh, this dude seems like a real one, like a dude you'd want to like have a beer with.
I always like him too because they'll put him in such. He knows his comedic timing is better to not be a long player being comedic. So like he's in like the last episode of Parks and Rec and he's super funny in it, but like it works because it's just a cameo, right? Whereas like if he was in it for the whole season, it wouldn't have worked. I
never watched Mad Men.
I've never seen it either. Yeah,
that's always on my list because I know there's a lot of it. I can sit down and binge that if I ever need a hooked show. I know people love it, like obsessed. So
it's one of those shows that I know like it's super popular, but then also like I don't think anyone I talked to often watched it, so it never really came up.
It's weirdly one of those shows where I know it's going to be hard to watch. Like Justified is a show where I'm like, if I watch this show, I want to drink whiskey all the time. Because the entire show, they're just like drinking straight bourbon. And I know that in Mad Men, they're just smoking the entire time. And I know that's going to like fuck with my head a little bit. So it's like, I kind of keep distance from it because I don't want that in my brain.
But yeah, anyways, in this scene, we only see his back. So we're never 100% sure that it's him. And he's reading like almost like he's having like church with these four girls, and they're all sitting there listening to him. And he's going, I was talking to my good friend God earlier, and we were talking about why he allowed his creation to be destroyed, the earth and the land, all the fowls of the air and the sea monkeys of the sea. And he says, do you know what he told me? And Gretchen's like, that we're all dumb and bad, and that's why he had to let the world be destroyed? He's like, that's exactly right.
It's just a bummer to be like, people could be brought into that, and that's what they think. And these people are like, that woman's stuck thinking for 15 years.
It's funny, but then you find out like that things like this exist.
Yeah, like it's hard. You're like, oh, that's a real thing, though.
I guess what pushed this to be like the backstory with the mole people was the Emily Smart stuff is what pushed it. Because I guess at one point, there was the thought was this show is going to be like she might have been a coma victim and she was going to come out of a coma after multiple years and like be kind of in a similar spot where she's like behind in the world.
That also would have worked.
Yeah. Put you in a similar position. I think obviously this worked out because all the bunker and mole stuff.
I'd say this gave you the callbacks.
Kimmy cuts in and it's like, wait, like, didn't you say that like the whole world's destroyed and everything died? And then he goes, yeah, except for all you dum-dums. Yes. And she's like, then how come when I was cleaning the air filter, I found this, and holds up a rat. The reason, this flashback is happening. She's like, if all the animals are dead, where'd the rats come from? And you just hear him go, damn you, Kimmy Schmidt, I will break you. It's like, no, you won't. And it flashes back to modern. So it's just kind of interesting because if she was pushing back on him that much, you think like there would have been like more effort to escape if she like really questioned this as much as she did.
I don't know, man. I'll use Jonestown as an example. Like, if you ever listen to like any of I've talked about the book Raven is like 10,000 pages. It is very dry and very depressing. But like, if you hear people on that death tape being like, I don't think we should die. I think there's more to live for. And he's like, nope. And they're like, okay, you're right. I'll die now. Like, some people are just so beaten down by that rhetoric that like,
don't forget, they think the story's the apocalypse like hit. If there's even that little shred of doubt that you're wrong and you open that up and you are wrong, you're all dead.
But I don't know. You think like she saw the rat, right? Which would be like, oh my God, something survived. There might be life out there.
I think it should be something different because it shouldn't be a rat or a cockroach because those are the two things they always say would survive anything, right? Like it should be like a bunny.
Well, cockroaches, do rats have their reputation?
I think so, yeah, because rats on a sinking barge
rats
will
are
even like, find a way
survivors,
out.
so
It's like if she had like a pretty bunny or like a squirrel or something, you could be like, then why would this thing exist when these aren't survivors,
But rats, to what Jay said, rats can't survive everything. Cockroaches can.
Cockroaches can, yeah. They're a terrifying, terrifying species.
Once we flash back forward, Kimmy grabs her things and you see her running into Times Square where she finds Tituss giving out like those flyers in the robot costume. And she's like, runs up, she's like, Tituss, like, I know you're in there. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, I thought you were going back to Indiana. It's like, I'm not going back. I'm not going to give up, and neither are you. He's saying, I'm trying to protect you. She's like, protect me from what? The worst thing that ever happened to me happened in my own front yard. Life beats you up, Tituss. It doesn't matter if you get tooken by a cult or if you've been rejected over and over again at auditions. Couple things. Tooken, which is what she says here, was the working title of what the show is going to be called when it was still on NBC.
Interesting.
I like Tooken. I like a oddly like off grammatically correct title, right? Like it'll catch your eye when you see that because you're like, wait, what? That's like Turner Time, right? When you still watch like the TV Guide channel, it'll be like shifted over. You're like, that seems wrong, and you look at it,
And then did you also see the thing where like people think the line where she says the worst thing that happened to her happened in her own front yard was Tina Fey referencing something from her life that happened? I guess she was like, can't remember the age. She was like either 5 or 6, and like someone like went up to her in her own front yard and like carved her like cheek.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Like knife cut her cheek.
I saw a very compressed version of whatever it was, like a note. So like I'd have to read into it more. And I didn't have the additional time to like deep dive it as much as I'd like to, but I was like, what the fuck?
That's terrifying.
Especially when you're that young. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also terrifying to be like, there are people in the world who are like that fucked
that are
up,
like that fucking crazy. Yeah. And then we talk about shit we did, like, oh, we stole pens when we were kids. You go, we weren't that bad.
I want a syringe pen. Like, I stabbed a little girl. Like, well, different level of stuff.
She's continuing with her motivational speech towards him and basically saying you can either curl up in a ball and die, like we thought Cindy did that time, or you can stand up and we can say we're different. She's saying, we're going to pay the rent and I'm going to get my job back and I'm going to kiss a boy and you're going to sing at the Grammys with Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson. And,
oh, hi, boys. Did I just get conjured again? How's it going?
Hey.
What's up?
I'm hanging out here with Whitney. She said Bobby's coming soon.
Why did Whitney go to hell?
Whitney, you think Casper's in hell? Casper's in a special place. It's warm here, but it's special.
The way this episode's gone, I'm actually less concerned with what Casper will say than what Joe was saying earlier. So,
well, I give Joe some lines every once in a while. We do lion reads. We hang out. Casper, that's not true. Don't give them a bad impression of me.
Yeah, Joe stopped doing lines years ago.
Publicly, Casper, stop saying that stuff. You know what, Casper? I think this is too weird of an episode. We just talked about a little girl get her cheek cut. I think you need to leave. Okay, Jesus, choose for me. Bye, boys. Bye, Casper. Jesus Christ.
I do like when she says the Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson thing. He's very quick to go, bad examples, but yes.
That's a funny thing, though, too. Like, imagine in 2000, you're like, these are like major pop stars, whatever. And you come back, you're like, Whitney Houston's dead? And what did Michael Jackson do? Like, such a bummer.
And she's saying, now sing in front of these people because that's what you came here to do. And he just starts singing The Circle of Life. And she's like coming in with a side. I don't even know how to describe what she's doing. Yeah, like that part, like the tribal kind of singing that goes with it. And you get like that fade out shot of like them in Times Square and he's dressed as a robot singing The Circle of Life.
What I love too, though, is it fades out. Their music, that their singing is also faded out by the traffic noises. So they're just singing at one point. You just hear car horns and people yelling because they're angry in New York, which is like a fun little touch.
It's a good way to highlight how shitty that city is.
Oh yeah, it's the worst.
But we love our fans from New York.
Yes, we do, and we hope that you make your rent next month and enjoy your. Like, I've had a lot of fun times in New York City. Just too much for me now.
It's interesting to me that Nick makes constant mention of his disdain for New York City. The only person I know that that I hang around with that roots for a New York team, though.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean,
hates New York, lifelong Giants fan.
I don't have to go there.
That's why he hates New York. He's a lifetime Giants fan.
They've also beaten some of the fandom out of me.
They play in New Jersey, too, don't they?
They do.
Yes, so do the New York Jets. Technically, the only football team that
Buffalo,
plays
right?
It's the Buffalo Bills.
Is the Bills, yeah. Home of OJ, the greatest football player of all time, who's also hanging out, I'm guessing, with Casper Jackson right now.
Quite possibly. So anyways, yeah, I mean, that's the entirety of the episode. I don't have a lot of other things to say. One thing I wanted to take note of, actually, was I was watching an interview with some of the cast members in one of the later seasons, and the person interviewing was like, all right, I got to know how much of this show is improv. And Tituss was like, not a single word. It's like every single word of this is like tightly scripted, like Tina Fey's vision. Yeah, it's like everything must be said a certain way. They're like, we don't want to make her sound like she's a tyrant, but everything has like very specific purpose. So there's like no, improvising.
A little improv is fine, but sometimes it ruins stuff, like the Ghostbusters movie you were in.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I don't think that's what ruined that movie, by the way. I don't think it was the improv that ruined that movie.
But yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to say about it. Otherwise, we got some green lighting and canceling to do. Well, obviously we don't have Gordo here with us this week. So in the event of a tie, you will be able to find out how he rated this one on our socials, where we put a graphic up every week. S1E1 pod on Instagram, X, and everything like that. But yeah, we'll do the green light or cancel. Nick, starting with you.
Yeah, this is a green light. It's just we talked about it in the beginning of the episode. It's not a new concept, this fish out of water, but it's new enough at this point that it was interesting. I think the casting is fantastic, and I think the cast does a great job. Ellie Kemper is kind of the perfect role for this, even though we discussed it was pretty much written for her. And I have seen the show, but it has been a really long time. I could not tell you necessarily what happens from episode to episode, even at this point, because it's been so long. And I am very interested in seeing the next episode. It's mainly just the stories, obviously, it grabs you, but I don't know, the ensemble is just really, really entertaining, and I want to see more of them, to put it simply as I can. And so, yeah, it's a pretty easy green light.
Joe.
Yeah, I think we all talked in the beginning of how we all saw some or all of this, right? Which I think is interesting, right? Because a lot of times we watch shows, like, we're just like, I never even heard of that show, right? So, like, this was obviously advertised well enough. And again, coming off The Office, right, with Ellie Kemper in it, makes sense we all watched it. I literally said to my wife after I watched it today, I was like, why did we stop watching that? I really, really did enjoy it. And that, I think, says enough, right? Like, I want to watch it again. I'm probably going to go through all the seasons now and watch that special, which I missed when it came out. It's fun. The fish out of water thing, like Nick said, right? It's overdone, but if you make a fun twist to it, and the cast, right? Like, you have Ellie Kemper, you have Kane. Like, this is pretty solid and like the first real good streamer, maybe, like we said, of the sitcom streaming era. So it's a green light for me.
Berg.
Yeah, by this point, we've all lost our ability to have a poker face. You know, when we hate a show, talk a lot of shit. I don't remember us saying anything negative through this review that we've done.
That's true.
We didn't rewrite any scenes. We didn't anything. This was a great show. I loved it when I watched it the first time. I'm one of the people that constantly says, comedy is dead. This is a really good show. Nick and Joe said a lot of the points that I would have said, so I'm not going to add to that. So just a green light from me. Way to go, Kimmy.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. No strong notes. This was just a fun show. I'm like, I wonder like why I fizzled out of it when I did. Who knows, just the times or whatever, but I would like to go back and like finish up the little bit I didn't watch. I'm a little worried that it's been so much time that I might have to start from the beginning to be able to do that properly. I don't know if I can just jump into like whatever end of season 3 episodes I hadn't seen and then watch season 4. But it was just a fun show. I think just super well written and just great casting. Everyone had really good chemistry with one another. Yeah, no big notes. So it's a green light for me. With that in mind, that's 4 out of 5 regardless of Gordo's score. So it's either going to be a perfect score or 4 out of 5. So congratulations to Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. You live on to see a second episode. I want to remind everyone one more time, you can go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to everywhere you can listen, our merch page, our social medias. So hit us up on any of those. Let us know shows you want to do, any type of theme months, how you found us, just want to chat, ask us questions, do whatever you want. But it's fun talking to you guys. And again, this is week 3 out of 4 for Ladies of the Office month. So it's been fun to kind of cover all these shows that all stem from a show that we love that we haven't covered yet, being The Office. But just thanks again for listening. We'll catch you again next week. Goodbye.
I think you got the best. Buckley's Angel.